Welcome, dear family. We're so happy to have you here. Before we dive into this captivating story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We are committed to bringing you fresh stories every day, just for you, our beloved family. Now, enjoy the story. Oena led Amarachi out of the restaurant, the cool night air brushing against her skin. She followed him cautiously, uncertain of what he had planned. His car was parked just a few steps away, its sleek surface gleaming under the streetlights. "Come," he said, opening the passenger door for her. She hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. Oena walked around to the driver's side and started the engine. The soft hum of the car felt foreign compared to the noisy streets she was used to. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice filled with curiosity. He glanced at her with a knowing smile. "Just trust me." They drove through the city, passing through neighborhoods unlike anything she had ever known. The roads were smooth, the buildings tall and polished. Amarachi shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how different their worlds were. Finally, Oena pulled up in front of a gated compound. The security guard nodded at him before opening the gate. Before her stood a massive house, glowing warmly against the dark sky. "This is your house," she whispered in awe. "Yes," he said, stepping out of the car. "Come, I want to show you something." She followed him inside, her eyes widening at the luxurious interior. Everything looked expensive, the furniture, the chandeliers, even the air smelled different. He led her to a room at the far end of the house and pushed open the door. Inside was a small, neatly arranged office. On the desk sat stacks of files, a laptop, and a framed picture of a smiling young man. "Sit," Oena said, pulling out a chair for her. She hesitated before sitting down, her hands resting nervously in her lap. "Why did you bring me here?" Oena sat across from her, his gaze steady. "I wanted to show you where I come from. But more than that, I wanted to talk to you about your future." She frowned. "My future?" "Yes. You have so much potential, Amarachi. You've been surviving on your own for so long, but you deserve more than just getting by. I want to help you achieve that." Her chest tightened. Why are you doing all this for me?" Oena leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. "Because I believe in you. I know you can do great things." Her heart pounded as she absorbed his words. She had spent her whole life struggling, never thinking beyond daily survival. "I don't understand," she said cautiously. "What do you mean by helping me?" Oena leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly against the desk. "I want to sponsor your education, Amarachi. I want you to have the opportunities you never had. You're intelligent, hardworking, and you deserve more than just struggling to survive." Her breath caught in her throat. "Sponsor my education?" "Yes. You told me you had to drop out of school because there was no money. I want to change that. If you're willing, I'll cover your tuition, books, everything." Amarachi's hands trembled slightly as she clutched the edge of her dress. It sounded too good to be true. In her experience, nothing ever came without a price. "Why would you do that for me?" she asked softly. "We barely know each other." Oena gave her a small smile. "You gave me your last meal when you had nothing. You didn't do it for gain, you did it because of your heart. Now, I want to do something for you, not out of pity, but because I see something in you that you don't see in yourself yet." Her mind spun. She had always dreamed of going back to school, of becoming someone who could take care of F&I and build a better life. But was it really possible? Could she trust him? She looked into Oena's eyes. There was no mockery, no hidden agenda, just sincerity. I don't know what to say," she murmured. "Say yes," he replied. "Say you'll take this chance." Her lips parted, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. Was she really about to change her life forever? Amarachi's fingers tightened around the fabric of her dress. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was a risk, but for the first time in her life, it was a risk that didn't feel like a trap. She looked at Oena, who was watching her with wide, hopeful eyes. He had never known a life outside of struggling. Was this her chance to change that for both of them? She took a deep breath. All right. I'll do it. Oena's face broke into a warm smile. You won't regret this, Amarachi. I promise. Her heart pounded as the words left her mouth. She had just agreed to something she had never thought possible. Would it truly work out? Or was she setting herself up for disappointment? Oena didn't waste time. Within a week, he had arranged for Amarachi's enrollment in a private school. When she saw the pristine classrooms and the well-dressed students, doubt crept in. She felt out of place. Oena, maybe this is too much, she said hesitantly. I don't belong here. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You belong anywhere you want to be. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. His words gave her the courage to step forward. She was determined to make the most of this chance, even if fear still whispered in the back of her mind. But as she took her first step into this new world, she had no idea that not everyone would welcome her presence. Amarachi stood frozen, the crisp new uniform clinging to her like an unwanted second skin. It should have made her feel fresh, renewed. Instead, she felt like an imposter. A group of girls by the lockers had already marked her as different, their whispers slicing through the hallway air like daggers. Who's the charity case? Oena sneered, arms crossed, her perfectly styled hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The others giggled, eyes glinting with cruel amusement. Amarachi swallowed hard. She had braced herself for challenges, but not this soon. Her pulse quickened. Just as she turned to escape, a voice cut through the tension. Leave her alone, Oena. The crowd parted slightly as Shaka stepped forward, his confidence a stark contrast to the malice in Oena's smirk. Amarachi recognized him from the entrance ceremony, the top student, the boy everyone knew. Oena scoffed. Mind your business, Shaka. He didn't flinch. She's new, not invisible. His gaze met Amarachi's, steady and reassuring. Don't let them get to you. If you need anything, let me know. Oena rolled her eyes before flipping her hair and strutting away, but not before shooting Amarachi one last withering glare. Amarachi exhaled. She had survived. But something told her this was only the beginning. Underscore 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 underscore. Later, in class, her heart still pounded from the encounter. She sat quietly, pretending to focus on her notebook. But the moment the teacher walked in, her breath hitched. Class, we have a new student today. Amarachi, please stand up. Her throat tightened as every eye in the room turned to her. Heat crawled up her neck. Welcome, Amarachi, the teacher said. Please introduce yourself. She forced herself to speak. I'm happy to be here. A few students chuckled under their breath, but she ignored them, forcing her shoulders back. The teacher nodded approvingly before moving on, and Amarachi sank into her chair, gripping her pen like a lifeline. Throughout the lesson, she felt Oena's piercing gaze burning into her. She didn't need trouble. She only wanted to study, to carve out something for herself. But when the bell rang, signaling the end of the period, Shaka strolled over, his presence a quiet shield against the storm. You did well, he said casually, leaning against her desk. She glanced up, startled. Thanks. Oena is always like that, he added, his voice low. But she gets bored easily. Just don't let her see that she's bothering you. Amarachi managed a small nod. I'll try. As he walked away, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It was only the first day, and she had already gained an enemy, but also, unexpectedly, an ally. underscore 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 underscore. By the time she reached home, she was exhausted. She barely had time to set her bag down before Efeni, her younger brother, looked up from his book, his grin wide. "Sister, how was school?" She ruffled his hair. "It was fine. Some people weren't very welcoming, but I'll manage." His face darkened. "Did someone insult you? Tell me. I will go and fight them." She laughed at his serious expression. "Don't worry, Efeni. I can handle it." But before he could argue, a knock at the door made her pulse jump. Visitors were rare. Exchanging a glance with Efeni, she moved cautiously to open it. Oena stood there, his hands in his pockets, eyes unreadable. Her breath hitched. The last time he had come, he had shattered her world with a revelation: he was a billionaire. And now, seeing him here again, she had no idea what to expect. "Good evening, Amarachi," he said, his voice smooth but serious. "Can we talk?" She hesitated but stepped aside. "Come in." Efeni's eyes went wide. "Is this your friend, sister?" Oena chuckled. "You must be Efeni. Your sister talks about you a lot." Efeni beamed with pride. "She does?" Amarachi folded her arms. "Oena, what brings you here?" His expression sobered. "I need your help." She raised an eyebrow. "My help? With what?" He took a deep breath. "I want you to work for me. As my personal assistant." Her mouth parted in disbelief. "Work for you? Doing what?" "I need someone I can trust. And after everything, I believe that person is you." She let out a dry laugh. "Oena, I don't have experience with that kind of job." "How do you expect me to?" "You'll learn on the job," he interrupted, his voice firm. "I don't need experience. I need integrity. And that's you." Efeni's eyes lit up. "Sister, say yes. That sounds like a great job." Amarachi hesitated. It did sound like an opportunity, a way to finally breathe easier. No more struggling for school fees. No more hunger-filled nights. But was this a lifeline, or a trap? "Why are you doing this?" she asked, searching his face. "Is this out of pity?" Oena's gaze didn't waver. "No. Because I see potential in you. Because I know you can do more, if given the chance. You helped me before. Now, let me help you." She looked down, heart pounding. This could change everything. After a long silence, she finally looked up. "All right. I'll do it." Relief flickered across his face. "Good. You won't regret this." The next morning, Amarachi stood before the mirror, adjusting her simple dress. She still couldn't believe it. She was about to start a real job, one that came with a salary. "Sister, you look beautiful," Efeni said, grinning. "Imagine, my own sister, working for a billionaire." She laughed, shaking her head. "It's just a job, Efeni. Let's not get ahead of ourselves." A sharp knock on the door made her stomach flip. She opened it to find Oena standing there, dressed sharply in a dark suit. He looked different, more commanding, more like a man who owned the world. "Good morning," he greeted, his smile controlled but warm. She swallowed. "Good morning." As they stepped outside, her breath caught at the sleek black car waiting. She hesitated, fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. Oena noticed. "Don't worry. You'll get used to it." She took a deep breath and slid inside, the soft leather cool against her skin. As the engine hummed to life, she looked out the window, watching as the familiar streets faded behind them. A new world loomed ahead, a world she had never belonged to, but one she was about to enter. For better or for worse, this was the start of something big. The moment Amarachi stepped into the office, she felt it, the weight of Evelyn's glare, the unspoken challenge crackling between them like a live wire. Every day, the tension grew thicker, pressing in on her like an invisible force. Evelyn watched her, waiting, almost daring her to fail. One afternoon, as Amarachi neatly stacked files in Oena's office, the door swung open without warning. Evelyn strode in, her heels clicking against the polished floor like the ticking of a countdown. "You seem to be adjusting well," she said, her voice syrupy with sarcasm. Amarachi met her gaze without hesitation. "I'm trying my best." Evelyn took a slow step closer, her smile sharp as glass. "Do you really think you belong here? Do you have any idea what it takes to survive in this world?" Amarachi's fingers clenched around the edge of the desk, but her voice remained steady. "I may not know everything yet, but I'm willing to learn. And that's what matters." Evelyn let out a soft, cold laugh. "We'll see about that." Before Amarachi could respond, Oena walked in. His sharp eyes flickered between them, reading the tension that lingered in the air. "Is there a problem?" His voice was calm but carried a quiet authority. Evelyn instantly masked her expression with a polite smile. "Not at all. I was just welcoming Amarachi, properly." Oena's jaw tightened. "Good. Because she's here to stay." For a fleeting moment, something unreadable flickered across Evelyn's face, anger, maybe even fear, but then she turned sharply on her heel and left, her steps clipped and precise. As the door closed, Amarachi released a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Oena gave her a knowing look. "Ignore her," he said. "Focus on your work." She nodded, but deep inside, she knew the battle had only just begun. Determined to prove her worth, Amarachi threw herself into her work. She arrived earlier than anyone, stayed long after others had left, and learned at a pace that surprised even herself. Oena noticed, though he kept his praise measured. He knew that drawing too much attention to her would only make Evelyn more dangerous. Then, one evening, just as she was about to leave, her phone buzzed. It was Oena. His voice was shaky. "Sister, someone came to the house asking about you." "A woman." She looked angry. Amarachi's heart pounded. "Did she say her name?" "No, but she was driving a big car. She said, you stole something that didn't belong to you." The air in her lungs turned to ice. There was no doubt in her mind, it was Evelyn. But what was she planning? The next morning, Amarachi walked into the office with her head high, but the air was thick with whispers. She ignored them, keeping her steps firm and her expression unreadable. Then, as she opened her email, her breath caught. A single, anonymous message. "People like you don't last here. Leave while you can." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Fear coiled in her stomach, but she forced herself to take a slow, steady breath. She had fought too hard to let someone like Evelyn push her out. Later that day, Oena called her into his office. He studied her carefully, concern flickering in his eyes. "Amarachi, is everything okay? You seem distracted." For a moment, she debated keeping it to herself. But she had kept quiet for too long. "I think Evelyn is trying to scare me away," she admitted. Oena's expression darkened. His jaw tightened, his hands folding together on his desk. "I won't let that happen." Before he could say more, the office door swung open. "Evelyn." She stepped inside with a look as cold as steel. "We need to talk, Oena," she said, her voice razor-sharp. "Now." Amarachi could feel the storm brewing. But she wasn't going to run. Not this time. She was ready.